Hey everybody, this one is called Contracts with the Devil because that's literally what we're getting mixed up in and what many people have unknowingly become involved in. Everybody, quite frankly. Anyways, let's get going. Do not respect persons and no title of nobility. That's found in the Holy Bible. This is Job 32:21-22. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person. Okay? And so if you accept their Satanic trust, these people that go around saying that we got to capture this trust account and we got to we can get the money that's in the trust account that's got billions of dollars in it, possibly. What you're doing is that's a sin, okay? And you're in a contract with the devil, okay? And it's gonna bite you in the backside. Anyways, let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person, neither let me give flattering titles unto man, for I know not to give flattering titles. In so doing, my Maker would soon take me away. And so, again, no titles of nobility. The Founding Fathers understood all of this, I'm sure. And that's why they were doing stuff about titles of nobility in the Constitution, in the Articles of Confederation, and the real Article 13 and Amendment. And then in James 2:9, but if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgressors. And so, again, you cannot respect, like these courts are all fictitious courts, okay? So you got to tell them, I don't recognize you. The scriptures tell me I can't recognize you. And that's where you have to go with it, okay? This is you're literally in contracts with the devil, okay? Now, I would like to say that I consider myself Christian, but I don't, I'm not religious, okay? In other words, I read and understand the Bible, but I don't follow any particular church because religion, in my opinion, is a mechanism of control. And but I do consider myself Christian, and I think there's a lot of things in the Bible that, especially the New Testament. Well, anyways, it's important to pay attention to this. Anyways, so this is the 14th Amendment, the current 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Okay, so now we have persons equals citizens. U.S. citizens equals a person, and it actually equals an individual. Okay, this is Title V, United States Code, Section 552A. And in paragraph 2, it says the term individual means any citizen of the United States or any alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence. Okay, so now we're talking about aliens. And aliens are also so an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence. Okay, so that's important. Individual, so a U.S. citizen equals a person equals an individual. And this is paragraph 13. The term federal personnel means employees, officers, or employees of the government of the United States, members of the uniformed services, including members of the reserve components, individuals entitled to receive immediate or deferred retirement benefits under any retirement program of the government of the United States, including survivor benefits. So anybody with a Social Security number is federal personnel, is a government employee, okay? And so so a U.S. citizen equals Social Security number equals person equals individual, okay? And so these are some foundational things that we're going to be talking about here, and we're even going to talk about strangers. But right now we're talking a little bit about persons. This is The Law of Persons by Joseph R. Long, published in 1912, a classification of persons. This is all taken from Roman law, okay? Roman law distinguished three kinds of personal status or degree, legal capacity, and classified human beings with respect thereto as follows. And then section 3 says the loss of freedom, capitis diminutio maxima. A Roman citizen could not legally be sold into slavery, but he might become a slave by condemnation for a crime or by being captured by an enemy. Okay, and so again, this all falls under Roman law, and that's what is happening. Okay, they're using international law, and they're assaulting you, capturing people, and selling you into slavery, and doing all these things that are a violation of God's laws found in the Bible. And this is all satanic. This is the commentaries of Gaius and Rules of Ulpium, which was translated in 1874. To take an instance, when a person, sui juris, was given himself an adoption, or a woman passed an armenus, all their property, incorporeal and corporeal, and all that is due them is acquired by the adopting father or coiptionator, except those things which perish by capitis diminutio. Okay, remember, we talked about that a minute ago, capitis diminutio, of which kind are a usufruct, an obligation to services on the part of freedmen contracted by oath, and matters enforceable by statutable action. So statutes, okay, so all statutes have to do with persons. I mean, all you got to do is read those things, and it's talking about persons, okay? And all these courts are dealing with statutes. I mean, this is all Satanism. It's everywhere. And these code enforcer pigs that you see running around enforcing their codes, they're all enforcing statutes, okay? And that's the first order of business, is to impose martial law so they can get rid of natural law and start shoving their statutes down your throat. Okay, that's all the Satanism. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating Your Public Servants. For a complete set of YouTube videos with private information shares, a DVD with over 50 searchable law dictionaries and other books and forms, contact me privately at engineerwin@yahoo.com. And donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, or Bitcoin actually, as well. But as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the IOUs, the military script, the Federal Reserve notes, the PayPal gifts, the checks, the money orders. Send me an email for particulars. A U.S. citizen is a Sestake trust, okay? So a person, a Sestake trust is a person, okay? And so this is a summary of Henry Boland's 1912. Every taxpayer is a Sestake trust having sufficient interest in preventing the abuse of the trust to be recognized in the field of this court's prerogative jurisdiction. And a summary of 5 pages of the Congressional Record dated June 13, 1967, says that a citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the Public Charitable Trust, a constructive Sestake Trust of U.S. Inc. under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the USA and U.S. Inc. And this is all coming from the Roman cult. This is taken from Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mort main. And it says, yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. Okay, that's the Roman cult, folks, that they're talking about. For when they were driven out of all their former holds, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted not to themselves directly, but to nominal feoffees, to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, and receiving the actual profits, while the season of the land remained in the nominal feoffee, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy. That's the Roman cult, folks, and it's still to this day. To be bound in conscience to account to a Sestake use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. Well, that's taxes, folks. There it is, right there in front of you. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And it's still the foundation of modern conveyancing. And think about it. Conveyancing has to do with property. If you don't have the right to property, then you don't have any rights, okay? Your rights are property, okay? Slater's protestations to the effect that he derives no benefit from the United States government have no bearing on his legal obligation to pay income taxes. Unless the defendant can establish that he's not a citizen of the United States, the IRS possesses authority to attempt to determine his federal tax liability. Okay, so Slater needs to say that he's not a U.S. citizen. And if he doesn't, he's a person. He's a slave. They can do whatever they want. This is taken from the D.C. Code, located at 31 Stat 1432. And this is the legal estate to be in the sestike use. Okay? Sestike trust. Sestike use, sestike trust. They're basically the same thing. Use is actually short for usufruct. Okay? Which is the right to use something without owning it. This is more D.C. Code, which was approved March 3rd, 1901 by the 56th Congress at Session 2 at 31 Stat 1189. And at 2, which is right up in the very front of the D.C. Code, it says, and be it further enacted that in interpretation and construction of said code, the following rules shall be observed, namely, the word person shall be held to apply to partnerships and corporations. More D.C. Code, this is 31 Stat 1230. Okay, absence for 7 years, and it's the presumption of death. Okay, and so this is where they have the right, or give themselves the right, to presume that you're a person. Okay, that you're dead and that they're dealing with a sestike trust. A U.S. citizen equals a sestike trust equals a Roman cult equals a slave. Okay, an individual is interchangeable with that. Social Security number is interchangeable with that. This is where it's codified. Statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? This is Title 15, United States Code, Section 44, Definitions. Corporation shall be deemed to include any company, trust, so-called Massachusetts trust, or association, incorporated or unincorporated, which is organized to carry on business for its own profit or that of its members, and has shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest, and any company, and it goes through the same definition except it says without shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest. Otherwise, it's exactly the same definition. And so, again, that a sestike trust would fall in that for sure, because it would fall in the second part, without shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest. And so, when you make application for a Social Security number or a birth certificate or a driver's license or any government benefit, you are saying you are a person. That's a sin, okay? How many Christians do we actually have out here? I would say next to none, okay? We should call it the Satanic Nation, okay? Person equals stranger equals Roman cult, okay? So person can be tied with that as well, okay? A stranger, but not all strangers. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. Don't forget to like this video. On YouTube, don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified when there's a new upload. On Steemit, don't forget to vote and make your comments. And I also have a profile on BitChute, but I don't have all my videos there. This is my front page of my YouTube channel. The subscribe button, the arrow is pointing to the bell. The subscribe button next to it is already clicked. That's the reason it's white, and normally they're red, and there's no check mark there. And anyways, when you click on the bell, a little pop-up comes up, and you have to check the box and click OK to be notified about new stuff that comes out. And then the bell changes. It looks like it's ringing. It looks like it's vibrating. And so right now that bell needs to be clicked. This is Steemit. The left arrow is where you do your upvotes on an article. The middle arrow is the number of upvotes it's received. And the right arrow is where you can make some comments. And this is Steemit again. And the hand is touching the crypto wallet profile. And that little pop-up comes down. And that's where you can follow somebody or unfollow them. So this is all perpetual warfare. Okay, under the international law of warfare, all parties to a cause must appear by nom de guerre, because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own name. And so again, this is all warfare. Why do you think they're spelling your name in all block capital letters? Okay, it's all warfare. A mixed war is one which is made on one side by public authority and on the other by mere private persons. Okay, this is all warfare. Any commerce, all commerce is warfare, and all warfare is commerce. This is Matthew 17:25-26. He saith, Yes. And when he was come into the house, Jesus prevented him, saying, What thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? That's taxes. Of their own children, or of strangers? Peter saith unto him, Of strangers. Jesus saith unto him, Then are the children free. Of course the children are free, okay? And so this is where it's talking about strangers, okay? And so, again, strangers equals person, and not necessarily all strangers, though, but it's always strangers that are being taxed. And but it's not necessarily all strangers. They got to get you into a contract. Person equals stranger, okay? But it's only strangers that are subject to these rules and regulations. But again, you still have to get into a contract. And so all you have to do is, remember, I talked about the two classes of citizens in the video about the two classes of citizens. Is establish yourself as a state citizen and not a U.S. citizen, and there's nothing they can do. This is the Trading with the Enemy Act, Title 50, Appendix 5. The President, if he shall find it compatible with the safety of the United States and with the successful prosecution of the war. Why do you think they have a war on drugs? Why do you think that they have a war on terrorism? Okay, it's because they can invoke this Title 50, this Trading with the Enemy Act, and then they can do anything they want. Anyways, during the time of the war, the President may, through any agency that he may designate and under such rules and regulations as he may prescribe by means of instructions, licenses, or otherwise, regulate, direct, compel, nullify, void, prevent, or prohibit, or exercising any right, power, or privilege with respect to any property by any person subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, and upon the terms directed by the President in such agency or person, and such designated agency or person may perform any and all acts incident to the accomplishment or furtherance of these principles. So that's that. I mean, if you read that thing, I had to shrink it down because it's quite lengthy, and so I had to get it on this slide. That's why you see several places where there's dots, because it was stuff that, I could cut out of there. But the point is they can do anything they want, okay? If you're a person, okay, that you have no rights. This is Exodus 12:49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and to the stranger that sojourneth among you. Okay, so again, there's two classes of citizens, people that are born in the land and the strangers, okay? Now, it gets more complicated than this, and we're going to get into that. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. That is how they enslaved the children of Israel, okay? Is because they were strangers. If you're a stranger, then they get you into a contract and they enslave you. Okay, those are the only ones they have any jurisdiction over. Also, thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Again, that's how they enslaved the children of Israel. If a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. Love ye therefore the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Okay, so those are all various Bible citations from Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Ye shall not anything that dieth of itself, thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is within thy gates, that he may eat it, or thou mayest sell it unto an alien. Okay, so now we're talking about aliens. Okay, so an alien is a stranger as well. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. And so a stranger and an alien are very similar, but not completely the same either. Unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury. And that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all thou settest thine hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it. Okay, so again, why do you think they want a social security number to get a credit card or a bank loan? Okay, because they have to prove that you're a U.S. citizen. Okay, that's the stranger. Okay, a U.S. citizen is a stranger. A person is a stranger. Matter of fact, on any loan application, it says, I swear under penalty of perjury that I'm a U.S. citizen or resident alien. Okay, and that's the only people they can lend to. Okay, with their so-called loans that are a complete fraud. When you deal with the bankster thieves in the so-called courts, and it's over a loan, you're saying, I'm a stranger, everybody. Hey, I don't have any rights. You can go ahead and abuse me all you want. This is The Law of Nations by Vattel, Book 1, Chapter 19, Section 213, page 87. Residents, as distinguished from citizens, are aliens who are permitted to take up a permanent abode in the country. Being bound to the society by reason of their dwelling in it, they are subject to its laws so long as they remain there, and being protected by it, they must defend it. Although they do not enjoy all the rights of citizens, they have only certain privileges which law or custom gives them. Permanent residents are those who have been the right of perpetual residence. They are a sort of citizen of a less privileged character and are subject to the society without enjoying all its advantages. Their children succeed to their status, for the right of perpetual residence given them by the state passes to their children. Again, so a U.S. citizen is a permanent resident. Okay? That's exactly, why do you think they want to know the name of where your residence is? Okay? That's the first word out of their mouth. These pigs. This is the U.S. Supreme Court, 1873. But the rights of sovereignty extend to all persons and things not privileged that are within the territory. They extend to all strangers resident therein, not only to those who are naturalized and to those who are domiciled therein, having taken up their abode with the intention of permanent residence, but also to those whose residence is transitory. All strangers are under the protection of the sovereign while they are within his territory and owe a temporary allegiance in return for that protection. So think about it. This is talking about a residence, a stranger who's transitory. Okay, that's an illegal alien. Okay, and so again, the aliens are a little bit different, but all these strangers who have a permanent residence, okay, they're persons. Okay. They're residents, they're U.S. citizens, and they are slaves, okay? And this all falls under, again, are you a person, okay? And so all strangers are actually persons, or at least they try and assault them with that. But again, that's the reason that nowadays they go and they get... they actually assign Social Security numbers or some sort of number to anybody that goes past customs, and that's not an American. And so the people that are not Americans that come here, they give them numbers so they can generate revenue. They're a bunch of thieves. Anyways, it's all about persons. And remember, we're not supposed to recognize persons. There's always been two classes of citizens. This is Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities as citizens in the several states. And so, again, there's always been two classes of citizens. The citizens of each state and the citizens in the several states. Okay, that's the second part of it. It's U.S. citizens. But the stranger that dwelleth among you shall be one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for you were strangers in the lands of Egypt. And that's Leviticus 19:34, and we went and quoted a whole bunch of other ones. This is as old as time itself. Love ye therefore the strangers, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Deuteronomy 10:19. And we call ourselves Christians. You know, how many of these people out here are Christians and are claimed to be Christians? You know, I don't know that they're going to do so well on Judgment Day. Numbers 15 and 15. One ordinance shall be for both you and the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you, an ordinance forever in your generations. As ye are, so shall a stranger be before the Lord. Okay, and if a stranger shall be sojourn among you, and will keep the Passover unto the Lord, according to the ordinance of the Passover, and according to the manner thereof, so shall he do. He shall have one ordinance both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land. Numbers 9 and 14. Okay, and again, two classes of citizens. Statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? And this is U.S. Supreme Court again, Braswell versus United States, quoting United States versus White. But individuals, remember that's a U.S. citizen, but individuals, when acting as representatives of a collective group, cannot be said to exercising their personal rights and duties, nor entitled to their purely personal privileges. Rather, they assume the rights, duties, and privileges of the artificial entity or association of which they're agents or officers, and they're bound by its obligations. Okay, this is what they're doing to you in the so-called courts. Okay. When you go in there, they'll say, are you the name? And you say yes. Well, you just bought into this. Okay, you said that I want to be a surety. Okay, they know that they're dealing with a fictitious entity. They know that's exactly what they're doing. And so really what you should say is I don't recognize you. Okay, I'm not interested in participating in your satanic religious ceremony. I wouldn't say satanic. I just say your religious ceremony, and that's where I would go with it, quite frankly. But I don't usually go in there, and I file paperwork and just make life miserable for them. But anyways, a sunset. Okay, now we're talking about, again, these satanic contracts, okay, that they're getting you into, okay, because that is the foundation of the satanic contracts. Statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? A sumsit, in its origin and action of tort, sumsit was soon transformed into an action of contract, becoming afterwards a remedy where neither tort nor contract, or was neither tort nor contract, based at first only upon an express promise. It was afterwards supported upon an implied promise or even upon a fictitious promise. You see how these bar members go and twist it around, eh? Introduced as a special manifestation of the action on the case, it soon acquired the dignity of a distinct form of action which superseded debt. Okay, so they're fabricating debt. Became concurrent with account and with case upon a bailment, a warranty, and bills of exchange. Okay, so this is all talking about Uniform Commercial Code and commerce. Okay, this is all satanic. And competed with equity in the case of the essentially equitable quasi-contracts. Okay? Growing out of the principle of unjust enrichment, surely it would be hard to find a better illustration of the flexibility and power of self-development of the common law. Yeah, see, there's a lot of different definitions of common law, and common law is really just court cases, and this is these bail priests that go and interpret this stuff. But the bottom line is you have to deal with it. And this is taken from James Barr Ames, The History of a Sumsit, and 3 select essays on Anglo-American legal history, 1909, which is cited in Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. So, it gets better. Both in Roman and English law, there are certain obligations that were not in truth contractual, but which the law treats as if they were. They were contractual in law, but not in fact, being the subject matter of a fictitious extension of the sphere of contract to cover obligations which do not in reality fall within it. That's Salmon on Jurisprudence, and 9th edition, Sweet and Maxwell, England. Quasi-contracts are based solely upon a legal fiction or fiction of law. In other words, they have to establish the Sestake trust. Okay, it's not on living people; it's on the Sestake trust. Okay, so they have to. It's got to have. They can only impose one of these quasi-contracts on a fiction. That's why. Remember back here. But individuals, when acting as representatives of a collective group, cannot be said to be exercising their personal rights and duties, nor be entitled to their purely personal privileges. Rather, they assume the rights, duties, and privileges of the artificial entity or association of which they're agents or officers, and they are bound by its obligations. So they just assault you with one of their quasi contracts. Isn't that nice of them? Quasi-contracts equals Roman cult equals U.S. citizen. Why do you think they want your social security number or a social security number or a date of birth when you apply for anything? It is the well-settled rule of law that he who seeks the benefits of contract must also assume the burdens. Okay? And voluntary acceptance of benefit of transaction is equivalent to consent to all obligations arising from it so far as facts are known or ought to be known to a person accepting it. Okay, again, this is these Baal priests, these Satanists, and that bar members that have infiltrated the courts. A quasi-contractual action presupposes acceptance and retention of a benefit by one party with full appreciation of the facts when circumstances making it inequitable for him to retain the benefit without payment of its reasonable value. And so, again, it's an extortion racket. Okay, they're assaulting you with some of their so-called benefits. Quasi-contracts equals Roman cult equals U.S. citizen. Okay, these are satanic contracts is what they are. But there's more of them. There's lots of them. This is Uniform Commercial Code. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? Whenever the Uniform Commercial Code creates a presumption with respect to a fact or provides that a fact is presumed, the trier of fact must find the existence of the fact unless and until, The trier of fact must find the existence of the fact unless and until evidence is introduced that supports the finding of its non-existence. And so, again, you have to understand the presumptions that these Baal priests are taking when you set foot in their so-called court. This is Uniform Commercial Code 3.308, proof of signatures. In an action with respect to an instrument, the authenticity of an authority to make each signature on the instrument are admitted, unless specifically denied in the pleadings. And so, again, the issue is that they're forging your signature onto one of these so-called contracts, and if you don't know that that's what's going on and deny it, then you just got railroaded. Uniform Commercial Code equals Unidroit equals Roman cult. The following rules apply in an action on a certificated security against the issuer. Unless specifically denied in the pleadings, each signature on a security certificate or in a necessary endorsement is admitted. This is Uniform Commercial Code 8.114, evidentiary rules concerning certificated securities. There's people that have found their criminal case circulating at Fidelity Investments at Wall Street and worth millions. And so they're forging your signature onto a contract, securitizing it, and selling it on Wall Street. And it's big business. Why do you think America has the biggest prison population on the planet? This is all Satanism. These are all Satanists that are in these so-called in these prisons because they've gone and accepted this person. These Roman cult Satanist bar member whores masquerading as a judge forges your signature onto a contract and then presumes it's authorized and authentic. Who's going to call a judge a liar? That's how they're populating the prisons. Carl Lentz brought up the issue of forgery against the CPS when they stole his son in a successful one-page lawsuit. See the Judicial Whores video. Matter of fact, see the Judicial Whores playlist. Statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? He, the prisoner, has as a consequence of his crime not only forfeited his liberty, but all of his personal rights, except those which the law in its humanity affords him. He is, for the time being, a slave of the state. And they should be put to death. Okay, under Deuteronomy 24:7, if a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him or selleth him, then that thief shall die. Thou shalt put evil away from among you. Okay, so again, they should be put to death, okay? But these brain-dead idiots out there that call themselves Christians and have no concept of what it means are just going along with it and letting themselves being sold into slavery and accepted this person and getting social security numbers and all the rest of it. UNIDROIT stands for the Unification of Private Law, and the website says that 63 countries have adopted it. It's designed to be automatically implemented. Canada, United States have been signatories to the UNIDROIT Treaty for over 30 years. UNIDROIT statutes say nothing about Texas or Arizona or American states or Canadian provinces. Therefore, it's applicable in the American states and the Canadian provinces only in federal areas. UNIDROIT's located in Rome, about 100 yards from the Vatican. UNIDROIT covers negotiable instruments, civil procedures, secured transactions, legal status of women, maintenance obligations, banking law, contracts, much more. See the website. I'm not going to put everything up here. All judges are actually clerks masquerading as judges, which bail priests. Their black robe is their bail priest uniform. They routinely deny anything related to justice from happening because it's so good for business. They encourage their false flag operations and agent provocateurs because it's so good for business. They encourage state police murders, assaults, kidnappings, thefts because it's so good for business. Everything they do is a fraud because they're Satanists. My blog is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo.com. My YouTube profile, Sovereign Living and Sovereignty International. My Facebook community page, I deleted it due to censorship on the part of Facebook, and my private group at Facebook called Sovereignty International is being deleted. My Yahoo private group is Administrating Your Public Servants, and my Google private group is Administrating Your Public Servants. Follow me on Twitter at Engineer Win. Follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International, and I also have a BitChute profile, but I don't have all my videos up there. There's no common law crimes in the United States, okay? Again, this is all coming from the Roman cult, okay? The first order of business is they have to declare martial law, impose martial law somehow so they can get rid of their little common law problem. When I say common law, I mean natural law or law of the land. And so there's no common law offenses against the United States, only those acts which Congress has forbidden with penalties for disobedience of its command, okay? So think about it. That's only for persons, okay, U.S. citizens or resident aliens. And that's why the aliens who are not in a contract with the federal government, they can't do anything with them unless they commit a common law crime, which are, the states have to do it. Like murder or something like that, then they can put them in jail. But otherwise, that's why you see these so-called illegal aliens getting away with all sorts of stuff, because they're not in a contract, okay? They're not a person, and there's nothing they can do with them. They can only deal with persons. Under Texas law, no act or omission is a crime unless made so by statute. It's the same thing in Texas, okay? The legislature may create an offense and in the same enactment provide exceptions to its application. It's the same thing in the states, but they go and just, if there's a common law crime, they go ahead and railroad you anyways. And but technically, they're not supposed to. If you establish yourself as not a person, as a state citizen, for example, they are hard-pressed. There's not much. They have to be careful what they can do. Everything is in Admiralty, okay? A writ of error doth not lie upon a sentence in Admiralty, but an appeal, okay? And that's taken from Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, under definition of Admiralty. But it's citing Book 4 on the Institutes and the Laws of England, which is Coke in the 1500s. Appeals are in Admiralty. That's why it's called a court of appeals. It's the same thing that precipitated the War of Independence. And this is the causes and necessities for taking up arms, 1775. Statutes have been passed extending the courts of admiralty and vice-admiralty far beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law and instead thereof to publish and order the use and exercise of the law martial, and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter, We saw the misery to which such despotism, that's military dictatorship, folks, would reduce us. And so the Founding Fathers clearly understood it, but they go and put fluoride in the water to keep the people dumbed down and stupid nowadays, and it works really good. And so that's exactly what they're doing. That's why there's no common law. Now, this is taken from a book called The Non-Ratification of the 14th Amendment by Judge A.H. Ellard of the Utah Supreme Court, and it's related to a case called Diet versus Turner in 1968. And he says the same thing, but he says it in a little bit different way. And what he says is, in the meantime, civil law was the form of law imposed in the Roman Empire, which was largely, if not wholly, governed by martial law rule. Equity has always been understood to follow the law. To have superior equity is to turn things on their head. This is exactly what happens when martial law is imposed. If equity is the law, then it follows its own course rather than following the common law, thereby destroying the common law and leaving what's called equity in its place. And that's why these Baal priests, these Satanist whores in these so-called courts sit up there and say, I can do anything I want in here. I can do anything I want in here. And he's right, okay, because it's all under martial law. Martial law equals Roman law equals Satanism, okay? This is all satanic. They're assaulting you with their person, and they're Satanists. This is the a letter from the Georgia Department of Driver Services, and I'm showing you what happened is the name that it was addressed to has been sanitized out. You can pause it and read the whole letter if you want, but there's only a couple things that I want to point out in here. Whoops. And the stuff here is what I want to point out is highlighted on this page. And again, if you want to pause it and read it, knock yourself out. But I'm going to have it summarized here. Notice that it's signed by this Jennifer Ammons, General Counsel for the Georgia Department of Driver Services. And this is the summary, or not the summary, this is the cite out of that letter of the part that I want to bring to your attention, okay? The statute creates a rebuttable presumption of residency for anyone who meets the following criteria. And they list the criteria, but that's immaterial. However, no such person shall be considered a resident for purposes of this chapter unless such person is either a United States citizen or an alien with legal authorization from the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service. Okay, and so that's where it comes in. If you're a U.S. citizen or an alien, you have to be in a contract. And the reason is that really the state governments are subsidiaries of the federal government, okay? And that's why all state laws are subject to federal law, and because the state governments are corporations that are subsidiaries of the federal corporation called United States. This is taken from the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966, Public Law 89-719, 80 Stat 1130 and 1131, definitions. Motor vehicle. The term motor vehicle means self-propelled vehicle which is registered, okay, for highway use under the laws of any state or foreign country. Security means any bond, debenture, note, security, certificate, or evidence of indebtedness. These are all terms that are found in the Uniform Commercial Code. And so what they're doing is they're assaulting you with their Uniform Commercial Code. Why do you think in these so-called courts the only thing they want is Federal Reserve notes? They want commercial paper. If you give them gold or silver coin, which some people have done, well, they immediately convert it to Federal Reserve notes. Okay, well, let's see. The price of gold today is $1,230 an ounce, and so we're giving you $1,230 worth of credit. And so that's exactly what they do, okay? These people are Satanists. Anyways, you're welcome to read it. A bond or certificate of other evidence, indebtedness issued by a corporation or a government or a political subdivision thereof with interest coupons in registered form, share stock, voting trust certificate, any certificate of interest or participation in, certificate of deposit or receipt for temporary or interim certificate for or warrant. This is all stuff that's taken from the Uniform Commercial Code. Again, Jennifer Ammons, General Counsel, Georgia Driver Services. The statute creates a rebuttable presumption of residency for anyone who meets the following criteria. It doesn't matter what the criteria, because the point I want to make is, however, no such person shall be considered a resident for purposes of this chapter unless such person is either a United States citizen or an alien with legal authorization from the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service. So there's the contract. Wow, somehow I went back. Anyways, international law rule adopted for areas under federal legislative jurisdiction. Federalizes state civil law, including common law. The rule serves to federalize not only statutory, but the common law of a state. State and federal venue discussed. The civil laws effective in an area of exclusive federal jurisdiction are federal law, notwithstanding their derivation from state laws, and a cause arising under such laws may be brought in or removed to a federal district court under the Judicial Code or the United States Code. This is taken from jurisdictional federal areas within the states. A report of the Interdepartmental Committee for the Study of Jurisdictional Federal Areas Within the States, Part 2, a text of the law of legislative jurisdiction submitted to the Attorney General and transmitted to the President June 1957. And it's page 158 through 165. So it's some excerpts out of there. That's why you see the dots, 3 dots there, because there's a lot of stuff, but you have to kind of shrink it down to get it into this slide. And so it's page 158 through 165. We therefore decline to overrule the opinion of Chief Justice Marshall. We hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, cases between citizens of the district and those of the states were not included in the catalog of controversies over which the Congress could give jurisdiction to the federal courts by virtue of Article 3. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power nationally covers those citizens even when in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. And so, again, a U.S. citizen equals persons equals individual equals resident. And a U.S. citizen is a slave, and it doesn't matter what state you're in, and all laws are federal laws. And that's why the international law rule, I don't care if it says state of Texas on it, it's a federal law. This is taken from National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company, 1948. A penal action. Why do you think they call it the Texas Penal Code? And even in Arizona, where it's called a criminal code, it's got penal words all throughout the statutes. Okay? A penal action. Statutes equals contract equals U.S. citizen equals person equals Roman cult. A penal action is an action on a penal statute, right? So then it's talking about persons. They all talk about persons. An action for recovery of penalty given by statute. Where an action is founded entirely upon a statute, and the only object is to recover a penalty or forfeiture, such action is a penal action. That's why they call it the Texas Penal Code or the California Penal Code. The words penal and penalty in their strict primary sense denote a punishment, whether corporal or pecuniary, imposed and enforced by the state for a crime against its laws. The noun penalty is defined forfeiture to be forfeited for non-compliance with an agreement. They assault you with one of their quasi-contracts. That's exactly what it is. The words forfeit and penalty are substantially synonymous. They assault you with one of their quasi-contracts and sell you into slavery. And that's because you were stupid enough to accept their person, which the Bible says that if you're a Christian, you're not supposed to do. So I guess you're a Satanist, and you deserve it. A penal action is one founded entirely on statute and brought with the sole object of recovering a penalty or forfeiture imposed as punishment for a specific offense, while a remedial action is one brought to obtain compensation or indemnity. And so, again, it's all contracts. It's all a satanic contract. You're in contracts with the devil. This is all Satanism. It's all coming from the Roman cult. A penal action is a civil suit brought for the recovery of a statutory forfeiture when inflicted as punishment for an offense against the public. Such actions are civil actions on the one hand closely related to criminal prosecutions, and on the other to actions for private injuries in which the party aggrieved may by statute recover punitive damages. And so again, the bail priest up in the front, if you nail him down, you try, and I need to know the nature of this proceeding. He'll tell you it's quasi-criminal. Well, that means they're getting ready to assault you with one of their quasi-contracts. Statutes equals contract equals U.S. citizen equals person equals Roman cult. VidMe got shut down on the 15th of December, and my YouTube channel called Sovereignty International is free. YouTube was going to block it, basically, until I either made it free or just deleted it, and so I just made it free. I made the exclusive content available on my website. I have 2 subscription levels, and I accept cryptocurrencies. $2.99 a month or $19.99 a year for access to the videos only, the exclusive videos. And there's the other, the platinum version is $4.99 a month or $39.99 a year for videos plus unlimited consultations. Now, and I'm thinking about raising this because, but anyways, this is where it is right now. But you got to understand that I'm not a liar. I'm a lawyer, an attorney. No, it's a liar is what it is. They're all liars. I mean, they don't have firsthand knowledge of anything. And so they're standing up there lying. Anyway, so I'm not a liar. But I can tell you that what I would do under a certain circumstance and tell you where to find the forms. That's about the limit of my consultations. The only power that these New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit. And I cannot fight all the battles, so I need more people fighting the battles and being on point. And so if you want to make it a donation, then donations are certainly appreciated. It's a modest donation, but every little bit helps, and a whole bunch of people chipping in a small amount adds up. And so I'm currently publishing a video a week, and so we'll take it from there. That's all about all I'm doing right now, and that's all I expect to do in the near future. I just don't have enough videos to make it more than a video a week. Some exclusive content is Arlington Private Information Share, Land Deed Training, Estoppel Certificates Training, Foreclosure Estoppel Certificates Training, Corporate Denial Training, Toll Roads Notice, Toll Roads Notice and Demand Training, Invoice Training, Notice of Void Judgment Training. I've also got revocation of signature training, third-party witness training, federal habeas corpus training, revocation of voter registration training, criminal complaint training, lawsuit training, other training as requests. Now, I've got several criminal complaint training, and I don't have the lawsuit training up there yet, but you can consider it similar to the criminal complaint training, actually. And ultimately I'll have other training as well, other lawsuit training and other training. All forms, files, and other instructions are available for free on my 2 private groups at Yahoo Groups and Google Groups. And so if you really, unless, again, it comes down to babysitting, and that's what I charge people for is babysitting, because you have everything that you need for free on my 2 private groups that you can, to free yourself. If you need my babysitting, then it's going to cost you. All exclusive content will be on my website, and you can buy a subscription there. This is all coming from the Roman cult. The Roman cult is satanic. See the churchianity in the Roman cult video. The Roman cult equals slavery. The Roman cult equals warfare. That's what they're all about, and that's what the Jesuits do. Okay, the Roman cult is responsible for all slavery. See the international law video. See the Roman cult slave scam videos. All bar members, judges, and lawyers are agents of the Roman cult. See the Bar Members 1, 2, and 3 videos. See the Judicial Horrors videos. See the Void Judgments video. See the Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts video series. The Roman cult, Adolfo Nicholas Pachon. Okay, now I understand he's been replaced. 30th Superior General of the Society of Jesus, the Black Pope. January 2008 to, I don't know, he's been replaced, I'm pretty sure. Master and overseer of the White Pope, who was at that time Benedict, Satan's present ruler of the world. Okay, notice the IHS. Okay, we're going to see that here shortly. Go ye then into all the world and take possession of all lands in the name of the Pope. He will not accept him as vicar of Jesus and vice-regent on the earth. Let him be accursed and exterminated. Okay, if you don't want to agree with them, they kill you. Or try to. And if you read the Jesuit oath, if they can't do it openly, they'll do it secretly. They're cowards. Remember, see the IHS. The Jesuit oath. I furthermore promise and declare that when opportunity present, make and wage relentless war secretly or openly against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to do, to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth. And I will neither spare neither age, sex, nor condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against walls, in order to annihilate forever their inexorable race. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisoned cup. See, they're cowards. The strangulating cord, the steel or the poniard, or the leaden bullet. Regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed so to do by any agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. And this is only a small part of it. Ever wonder why the world is so diabolically evil? Meet the man who plants it that way. The Black Pope, Adolfo Nicholas, the most powerful man in the world behind the plan for a new world order. The Superior General of the Jesuits, the Black Pope, Adolfo Nicholas, and his 6 generals control the White Pope and the Vatican and the entire list below. The Illuminati, the Zionists, the global elites, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberger, the Freemasons, the Council of 300, the United Nations, and the Council of Trent. The Jesuits control the Knights Templar, the Knights of Columbus, and the Knights of Malta. The CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the ASIO, the MI5, MI6, NCIS, FSB, DGSE, Mossad, and every intelligence agency on the planet are Masonic and controlled by Jesuits. The Jesuits have infiltrated most governments and the leaders, including Obama, making them puppets that carry out Jesuit orders. The Vatican New World Order. Herman von Rompuy, the president of the European Council, stated recently, "We're all Jesuits." He was referring to those prominent European leaders with whom he is developing the Roman Catholic architecture of the future Europe. It creates unbreakable ties, so there is a Jesuits International. Okay, and there's the pimp, or I should say the Pope, standing with these guys. These are all European leaders. And notice this. This is number 10 Downing Street. Okay, that's where the Prime Minister of England lives. Wherever the seal is openly displayed, the Jesuit order is in control. Okay, that's where the Prime Minister of England lives. And notice it's got an IHS right there next to the door. From 1203 to 1805, 50 million Christians died suffering at the hands of Rome because they believed in Christ alone. They died through Europe, especially Spain, for they saw all but Christ as vain. He who suffered by his death for men to save them from their awful sins, 600 years of martyred saints that history cannot erase. With iron heel and iron hand, the Roman popes rule the land. The Rothschilds have been part of the Jesuit order since way before 1776. The Maltese cross indicates membership and allegiance to the sovereign military order of Malta, a Masonic order created in 1099 AD by direct descendants of Roman emperors, of which the Jesuit order is a brand. Isn't it interesting that the Pope calls fake news a sin, yet the Catholic Church has been selling false saviors and implicated in child pedophilia for centuries? Check out my other videos, Bankster Thieves playlist, Roman Cult playlist, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1 through 3, Do-It-Yourself, How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft, Martial Laws Here, Do-It-Yourself No Income Tax, Do-It-Yourself Free Meal, Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts 1 through 13, Canada Border Pigs playlist, Bar Members and their Satanic Connections playlist. The Vatican's Holocaust. The sensational account of the most horrifying religious massacre of the 20th century by Avro Manhattan, Knight of Malta. Isn't that interesting? So it makes you wonder what his really agenda is, although he's certainly exposing the Roman cult in this one. So that tells me that there's probably good people. Matter of fact, there was even a Jesuit that escaped from the Jesuit order, and I can't remember what his name was, but he went and exposed, he went and brought out, did a lot of things to expose the Jesuits. So not everybody in there is evil and satanic. There's a lot of people that get mixed up in it and find out after the fact and walk away from it. And, of course, they probably pay a heavy price for it. But anyway, so this is Avro Manhattan. Avro Manhattan was the world's foremost authority on Roman Catholicism and politics. A resident of London during World War II, he operated a radio station called Radio Freedom, broadcasting to occupied Europe. He was the author of over 20 books, including the bestseller The Vatican in World Politics, twice Book of the Month, and going through 57 editions. He was a Great Britain who risked his life daily to expose some of the darkest secrets of the papacy. His books were #1 on the Forbidden Index for the past 50 years. Editor's note, this issue from 1986 and 2006, the record is now 70 years on the Forbidden Book list. I guess that means it's 80 years now. Preface to the American edition. The Vatican's Holocaust is not a misnomer, an accusation, and even less a speculation. It is an historical fact. Rabid nationalism and religious dogmatism were its two main ingredients. During the existence of Croatia as an independent Catholic state, over 700,000 men, women, and children perished. Many were executed, tortured, died of starvation, buried alive, or were burned to death. Hundreds were forced to become Catholic. Catholic padres ran concentration camps. Catholic priests were officers of the military corps which committed such atrocities. 700,000 total population of a few million proportionally would be as if 1/3 of the USA population had been exterminated by a Catholic militia. What has been gathered in this book will vindicate the veracity of these facts. Dates, names, places, as well as photos were there to prove them. They should become known to the American public, not to foster vindictiveness, but to warn them of the danger which racialism and sectarianism, when allied with religious intolerance, can bring to any contemporary nation, whether in Europe or in the New World. This work should be assessed without prejudice as a lesson, but even more vital as a warning for the future of the Americans, beginning with that of the USA. Editor's note, an armed Serbia could have easily prevented this Holocaust. Why do you think they want to take away our guns? Thank God for the Second Amendment to the Constitution, which guarantees the right to bear arms. Freedom of religion and an armed citizenry go hand in hand, is the only guarantee that this won't happen in the USA. Editor's note, it is the Vatican one world government that doesn't want you to have the right to own arms or to use any means to defend yourself. And isn't it that interesting? Because George Bush Sr. was talking about a new world order, wasn't he? Well, I guess he was working for the Roman cult then, wasn't he? This is a book called The New World Order by Ralph Epperson, written in 1989. This middle paragraph, the New World Order will include changes to the family. Homosexual marriages will be legalized. Well, gee, that sounds familiar. Parents will not be allowed to raise their children. Gee, that's how many people contact me because CPS is stealing their children. All women will be employed by the state and not allowed to be homemakers. Divorce will become exceedingly easy, and monogamous marriage will slowly phased out. The workplace, the government will become the owner of all factors of production. The private ownership of property will be outlawed. Well, that's essentially happened. This is given that they're all corporations and that the government owns the corporations and they regulate them heavily. Religion will be outlawed and believers will either eliminated or imprisoned. There will be a new religion, the worship of man and his mind. All will believe in the new religion, and that's emerging right now. This is the Jewish Encyclopedia, 1901 to 1906, Volume 2, page 497. Talks about Rothschilds are the guardians of the papal treasure. And we'll look at the top underlined part, the Semitic influence of the Rothschilds by establishing a banking concern which should be essentially Catholic. Okay, so actually it started out. Meanwhile, the nationalist and reactionary parties in France desired to counterbalance the Semitic influence of the Rothschilds by establishing a banking concern which should be essentially Catholic. And then you go to the bottom. It's somewhat curious sequel to the attempt to set up a Catholic competitor to the Rothschilds at the present time, the latter are the guardians of the papal treasure. The Rothschilds are the guardians of the papal treasure. And so the Rothschilds are, while they're not Catholic, they're playing a game, okay? They're guardians of the treasure, and they work for the Pope. And actually, I've read stuff that suggests that the Catholic Church is behind the Muslim religion. And so they want to destroy Christianity. Matter of fact, the Catholic Church, it's hard to say whether that's even Christian or not. And so, again, they get you into one of these satanic contracts, okay? Governments and any sovereign, okay, descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen where private corporate commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes, Bank of Canada notes, Bank of England notes, and securities and checks is concerned. For purposes of suits, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. That's the Clearfield doctrine, the Clearfield Trust Company versus United States. Now, think about this for a minute. And why do you think that they want, under international law, remember we talked about the international law rule, under international law, they can, the United States or any country can invade a country, and then when they sign a peace treaty, they just made that illegal. And so when they get you to sign something they assault you, they kidnap you, and they get you to sign something, well, you just made it legal. Okay, that's exactly what happens. These people are Satanists. Everything they do is a fraud. A U.S. citizen's a fraud. Commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes are a fraud. All mortgages are a fraud. They get you to participate in their fraud, then they assault you with one of their so-called contracts, and they sell you into slavery. Everybody that's in prison was sold into slavery. A Social Security number, birth certificate, is accepting their person is literally a contract with the devil, okay? That's exactly it. That's why the scriptures tell you not to accept their person, okay? And if you do it, then you are a Satanist when you participate in their Satanism. Quit using anything related to the Social Security number. You got to repent, okay? Quit using anything related to the Social Security number. Quit using anything related to the birth certificate. The date of birth is hearsay. Don't ever give out a date of birth. Make an affidavit. Says that I graduated in 1975, so I'm well past the age of majority. Many times you can educate whoever you're dealing with. If necessary, do without whatever the so-called benefit is. And file criminal complaints against them and be on point. Okay, the cult is Satanism is fraud. Okay, these people are Satanists. This is Satanism. They're getting you in a satanic contract, and you're in a contract with Satan. Okay, and Satan wants his 5 pounds of flesh. I didn't say it would be easy, but I said it would be the truth. Okay, the end. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.